Hi, my name is Debraj Ghosh. I'm a Senior Product Marketing Manager for Office 365's Threat Protection Services. I'm here with my colleague Jason Rogers, who's a Principal Program Manager at Microsoft as well. Today, we're going to focus our discussions around Office 365's Advanced Threat Protection. Office 365's Advanced Threat Protection is part of the Office 365 Threat Protection Service Stack, which also includes Exchange Online Protection, as well as Threat Intelligence, as well as Office Cloud App Security. We're going to focus today on advanced threat protection because it really addresses some of the things that we're seeing in the threat landscape. So, for example, when we look at cybersecurity as a problem and how it sort of impacts organizations, we really see two big things. We see that there's a large volume of these attacks and also a sophistication within these attacks. And so when we look at cybersecurity, we realize it's a complex problem, but when we break it down into these two different components, we can then start to really address what kinds of solutions would help us mitigate these two types of scenarios that we see.
It's so important to think about sophistication of the attack. To your point, Debraj, you know, what we've seen over the last year is a real evolution in the complexity of these attacks. And the only way that you're ever going to be able to detect these attacks is with a solution like ATP, where we're doing behavioral analysis. If you're you know, if it's a heavily morphed attack, if it's an attack where you're on the leading edge of the campaign, or if it's an attack that's targeted just to you, the only way you're ever going to protect yourself is with ATP.
So let's actually take a step back before we get into the ATP discussion today. Let's look at Microsoft at a broader scale and sort of how we look at the threat landscape and how what we understand and see in the threat landscape then sort of goes into all of our services, specifically the ATP service that we're going to talk about today. What you see in this cartoon is the globe, and that globe really is a representation of the Microsoft Intelligence Security Graph. Think of the Intelligence Security Graph as a pool of information where we collect a lot of the threat data, which is then used in all of our different threat protection services. You can see that we have the three different Microsoft platforms. We have the Windows platform and its 1 billion devices. We have the Azure platform and its 450 billion monthly authentications. And then we have the Office platform where we see 400 billion emails every single month and addressed for malware. The other thing you see is some of these arrows that sort of point to the different platforms back and forth. That's really to signify that integration. And I think, Jason, we've already seen some of that integration in between Windows and Office. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So if something gets detected on a Windows endpoint, Windows Defender ATP, we're almost instantaneously able to block that same content across Exchange Online Protection for mail flow, not just for your tenant, but for every tenant in Office 365. So the fact that we see those 400 billion messages a month and we're able to filter those messages means that we're so much more effective. All the boats rise.
Yeah, that's really powerful stuff. And the other thing that's really a key to what Jason just said is that even when your organization may not be using Windows, if you're using Office 365, that signal sharing enables you to actually have more signal because we're connected to Windows as well. So even though you're not consuming Windows services, you're actually benefiting from the fact that we have this intelligence security graph that you leverage in your Office 365 solutions, you leverage that Windows signal as well.
That's right, and it works both ways. So when we catch something through our sandboxes, through ATP and Office 365, that signal is sent to Windows Defender AV. Yeah. So if the same file shows up, it's delivered to you through some other email provider, through a personal account, say, we're able to still make that detection on your endpoint because we've already detonated it in our sandboxes in Office 365.
Yeah, that's really powerful stuff. That's really cool. And what you can see there, as you look at this diagram, below we actually have the 4 threat protection services within Office 365. It's the Exchange Online Protection, Advanced Threat Protection, Advanced Security Management, which is now called Office 365's Cloud App Security, and then Threat Intelligence as well. And this signal sharing that we see at the platform level is also true at the service level. So as Jason pointed out, EOP and ATP are sharing signal, and in fact, every time ATP catches something, as far as I understand, EOP will then also understand that signal as well. So you're getting that benefit of that signal sharing again.
That's right. Our position has always been we're gonna make everybody as safe as we possibly can. So when we learn anything from our sandboxes, we immediately apply it through our reputation services, every place we possibly can across all of Office 365.
So let's move on. One of the things we also want to address is that we're not building these solutions sort of in a dark room. We actually have a lot of customer feedback. We actually talk to our customers often. We sort of understand that, hey, there's certain challenges that our customers face today. And through those conversations and through those interactions that we have, that's when we sort of really learn, hey, what are the things that we need to build into our services so that our customers actually have the protection that they're actually looking for and the protection that they're talking about.
That's right. I've had, literally hundreds, if not thousands, of conversations with our customers. We've gotten amazing feedback and gotten some amazing ideas on how to make the product better.
Yeah. So at a high level, what we're trying to do with our services, is, especially with the Office 365 Advanced Threat Protection, is we're trying to protect our users' business-critical data. We're trying to help them determine if there's any compromised users within their organization. And also, as we'll talk about with some of the reporting functionality, we offer you the ability to gain visibility and respond to some of these threats when you actually see that something has happened within the organization.
One more point, we do all this with an eye towards keeping you productive. Yeah. I mean, that's key. Everything that we do is to make sure that we're not impacting the productivity of the workers in your company.
Yeah, and to Jason's point, we will actually show you some of those features that directly help with the user productivity, despite the fact that they're staying secure against some of these advanced threats that we'll talk about. All of this preparation, all of this thinking behind how we solve for these problems has now actually led us to some success in being able to do so. So as you can see in this graph, when we launched Office 365 Advanced Threat Protection, it was 2015. Since that time, we've always steadily and quickly improved on the efficiency of catching this malware. And so now you see today, we are greater than 99.9% on average of catching malware, and that's for both unknown malware and known malware averaged together.
Yeah, and I mean, this is because we've not only made huge strides forward in our ability to detect malware inside of the sandboxes, we've made huge strides forward in our ability to detect evasion inside of the sandboxes, but really this is also about our ability to amplify that signal. So just what we've been talking about, how we can share that signal between other workloads and ourselves, between other services and platforms and ourselves, and really just across all of Exchange Online protection. Yeah. That's really what's allowed us to turn the corner and hit these, what I believe are really best in class catch rates.
Yeah, no, this is great stuff. And so the other thing that's great to see is that this improvement is very real, and it's happening pretty much as we go through the lifetime of this product. Let's talk a little bit now about the features that are offered in Office 365 as Advanced Threat Protection. So we had talked about the customer problems. So obviously the first most important thing is to be able to protect that data. And in Office 365, a lot of that data is through email. And as what we've seen, and this is actually some of the statistics that support that, email still seems to be the #1 attack vector. So if you can protect email, you've done a lot towards protecting your entire organization.
That's definitely what we see. We see most attacks either initiating through email or some combination of an email pointing to something on SharePoint or something on OneDrive. But it's definitely the most popular way, the easiest way to initiate an attack.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you actually pointed out some of those other workloads. We'll talk a little bit about that later during this discussion. We're going to highlight email first, but as Jason alluded to, threats lie in other parts of the Office 365 suite potentially. Absolutely. And so we've actually now taken ATP to the next level where we're not just protecting email, we're actually protecting you in Office 365. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in detail as we go along. Great. But first, let's understand the email piece. And I'm going to highlight the first main, I think, feature within Office 365's Advanced Threat Protection, which is called Safe Attachments. And with Safe Attachments, I have this diagram, but I think Jason can actually show you some of the demos. But what we see here is that an attachment comes in the form within an email. We look at that attachment. I have a cartoon of a detonation chamber. Within that, you actually have the detonation of the file. We look at different indicators that may let us know whether or not this is malicious or not. We determine from those indicators whether it is, and if it is found to be malicious, we will prevent a user from opening that file.
That's right. The key is the behavioral analysis. So, traditional sorts of detections using AV engines require that you've got a signature, that you've already seen that particular piece of malware. An analyst has made a signature, that signature has been consumed, and now you're able to block that with your AV engine. That's great, and it's really effective, but it takes time. And so we've seen a dramatic shortening of the duration of these attacks. So the attack is over before there's a signature to stop it. And if you're on the leading edge or if it's a targeted attack, they'll miss it altogether. So the great thing about behavioral analysis is we're not actually looking at the malware, we're looking at what the malware does to the endpoint. So we have multiple hypervisors that are configured to look like endpoints. And so we watch the malware do what it's going to do. We watch it reach out to command and control servers and download secondary content, or drop additional executables and try to run them, try to persist itself, try to elevate privileges. All those things that malware do, we're able to detect on the endpoint. So we don't, even if we've never seen that malware before, or if each one being sent is completely unique, we can still detect it through behavioral analysis.
Yeah. And what's amazing is, and I believe this is true, and we'll cover that a little bit when we talk about some of the features of safe attachments, and the amount of time it took you to actually tell me all the things that we actually do, the detonation actually takes place already in that amount of time.
That's been a huge focus for us through this past spring, is reducing the time it takes us to make that determination. So now we're looking at a 60-second average for a message that gets detonated. 99% of those messages are going to be done within 3 minutes. So it's incredibly fast.
The next feature we want to talk about is safe links, which is the other policy for Office 365 ATP. Safe links is somewhat self-explanatory. Now we're looking at links that come into the email, either in the body or maybe even in the attachments themselves. And we actually apply a few different technologies here when we monitor the links. So you can see here there's an email, and in the body of the email there's two links actually. There's Bing and then there's this site. For each of those links, what we do is we wrap the link. We then examine that link against our reputation servers at the time of click to determine whether or not that link would lead to a malicious site. So in that example, if you click on this site, which was one of the highlighted links, you'd actually have that blocked and you get this error message. If you clicked on Bing, because it's not a malicious website, you'd actually be able to go to that site.
That's right. We're seeing so many more attacks that are link-based in mail. And one of the strategies that the bad guys use are to send a link through mail and have it point to a good site, and then switch in DNS where that URL points to point to a malicious site. So even though we have a bunch of technologies in place at delivery time to detect malicious links, if that link isn't malicious at the time of delivery, we've lost our opportunity to catch that link unless you're using safe links. So because we've wrapped that link, we now have a way to check the absolute last minute reputation on that link at the time it's actually clicked on. And we do that through a bunch of technologies. We do it through reputation. We also have technologies inside of our sandboxes that allow us to actually go to that website and detect suspicious things or malicious things.
No, that's really powerful stuff. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the technologies that we apply for looking at these suspicious emails. Let's go to the other feature before we get into looking in depth into how we stop these malicious links further.
Great.
And that next feature is URL detonation. And this is really where we combine the safe attachments as well as the safe links technology. Here we look at a link to file that comes in the body of the email. You can see that it's a .doc or a .pdf. What we now do is we essentially detonate that file. We open that file, we detonate that file, we determine whether it's leading to a malicious file, and if it is, that link goes into our reputation server as a malicious link, and then at the time of click, once again, we examine it against the reputation server, we know that it's bad, and then we get the block and we send this warning page to the end user.
That's right. So what we see is the same kind of content that traditionally has been sent as an attachment in email that's malicious, now being linked to. So could be an executable, could be a weaponized Word document, but they know, the bad guys know that we're taking those attachments and we're putting them in our sandbox at time of delivery. So in order to try to get around that, now they have a link that points to that document that's hosted someplace. So we'll actually go and download that document and then treat it just like it was an attachment on the email and do that full detonation. That's
really cool. So essentially, we covered some of the main features, so safe links, safe attachments, and then obviously URL detonation, which combines them. One of the things we want to touch upon a little bit is, I think, based on the telemetry we talked about at the very beginning, and some of the observations our teams have made, we've sort of seen that phishing campaigns are things that are sort of growing in the landscape. you and your team have done such a good job of malware, it seems like, that now attackers are looking at other ways to really get into a system and getting into a network. And it seems like phish is one of those things. So, of course, we've also seen this, and now we're actually taking steps to not only improving the technologies that we already have, but then also really creating some new and novel ways of thinking about phish, so we can actually really stop attackers from attacking through this new type of campaigns. So let's look at sort of what we do for this, and you can see that this is actually. There's a lot of stuff going on here. So it seems like what we've done is we've broken the problem down again into different components. And once again, we've been designing solutions at different parts of the mail flow and in the inbox and even after that.
That's right. Just like we do with malware, we believe in defense in depth. Mm-hmm. So we've got layers of technologies that are designed to, in some cases, catch specific types of attacks, mm-hmm. and in some cases are just really backups on previous layers of technology in the stack. So there are multiple ways that we can catch every single phishing email. We think that's the best approach.
Cool. Now, we don't say that we catch every single thing because it's impossible to do that, but based on what you've told me and what I've seen, everything that we've done has shown that we can catch even more and more types of phish and different types of phishing campaigns. And so this type of approach clearly seems to be working.
That's right. And some of our most advanced technologies in this area are really just starting to evolve. Mm-hmm. So, the technologies have been deployed, the architecture's in place, and now we're sitting there, we're tuning, we're learning, our AI is learning. It's going to be really exciting.
Yeah. And I think what we'll see is eventually we'll get to a point, as we have with the malware, where even with phish, we pretty much are being able to stop almost everything that we see.
That's right.
Yeah. Cool. And so let's look at now some of the other features that we've done to really enhance the experience for the end user. So as you alluded to earlier, all of this security is fantastic. However, if we make something so secure that no one can actually get their work done anymore,
that's right.
It seems like the security isn't as great as we would like it to be. So some of the features that we're going to talk about next, so one of them is dynamic delivery. It's part of safe attachments, and there's a way, so when someone is enabled with dynamic delivery, from what I understand, that really helps with their productivity piece, because we know that when a attachment goes through a detonation, there is sometimes some delay introduced to the delivery of the email. So dynamic delivery helps protect you against that, or helps reduce that impact.
That's right. In order to do a good job detonating, it is going to take some time. We have to wait for the malware to evolve and to do what it's going to do to the end system in order for us to do that behavioral analysis. Now, we've been able to reduce that, quite frankly, way below what I ever thought we were going to get to. So that 1 minute average is really remarkable for detonations. However, there are some cases where, even at the super low latencies that we're at, that's going to cause a productivity impact to the end user. So that's where dynamic email delivery comes in. Like you said, you get the body of the mail immediately, just like it was a mail that wasn't going through ATP. We take the attachments off and we put it into the sandbox and do a full detonation on those attachments. And we give you a notification letting you know that this is what we're doing, but we also provide previews of your documents now.
Okay. So I think we're going to talk about that here, right? So you're talking about document preview, which is another new feature. In fact, I think this is a feature we released in the last month.
That's right.
And this is really, coupled with dynamic delivery, it really reduces that impact from any type of detonation latency to almost nothing.
That's right. So we're able to actually take the attachments and open them up inside of the web viewers that everyone's familiar with from SharePoint. So you're able to interact fully with that document. You're able to see the full contact. It's it's formatted. You can read it, but all that active content that can do you harm, that's back on our servers, not on your computer.
That's awesome. So if I understand you correctly, then our latency times now for the delivery of an email are already at about 60 seconds on average.
That's right.
But on top of that, we also have dynamic delivery and document preview to really remove any impact even from that 60 seconds for those users who really need to get to their email and the documents that have been sent to them, even underneath that 60-second period.
That's right.
That's really amazing stuff. That's really powerful stuff as well. So essentially, what we want to make sure is that we secure our users to the full potential that's possible. However, we also want to make sure that they're not impacted by that security by having limitations in their ability to get their work done.
That's right. That's the key. We want to keep everybody super productive and super safe at the same time.
No, that's great. Okay, so now we want to sort of shift gears. We talked a lot about email, but as you know, Office 365 is a productivity suite and something that our customers use for many things aside from email. People are writing their Word documents. People are using Excel. People are making presentations on PowerPoint. So there's a lot of different things going on in Office 365 that have nothing to do with email.
That's right.
However, based on what you had told me, the attackers don't really care if it's email or something else. They are always looking for different ways of getting in to your organization and somehow disrupting your work or at least impacting you in a way that you're not going to like.
That's right. The attackers are running a business, not like any other business. It's all about return on investment. So they'll go to whatever they think the easiest way into your organization is.
Wow. So let's look at some of the new features that we're releasing this year with Office 365. We are now going to expand Office 365's ATP to protect you with SharePoint Online, OneDrive for Business, as well as Microsoft Teams. So once again, we're taking that holistic approach. We're looking at all the different workloads that people use in Office 365. And now we're making sure that we actually provide you with security and advanced security, not just any security, on those different workloads.
Right. It's the attacker taking advantage of some of those features that really provide you with the best productivity. They also expose you. So it's really important that in those cases, particularly when you're able to share documents out across your organization, across other organizations, super powerful. It makes you really productive, but that opens up an attack vector as well. Yeah. So we're using ATP to really protect against that type of attack.
And it seems like this is something that we had already thought about earlier this year because we had already been protecting users on Office clients. And so we did that, I think, around March, April of this year.
That's right.
So we've been protecting people on Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Visio for a few months now.
That's right. We figured why not leverage what we're doing in email on the clients as well. So we built safe links natively into the 2016 versions of Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Visio. So when you click on a link and you're logged into your Office 365 account, we're going to go off and do a check on that link just like we would if it was a link in email. And the best part is there's no wrapping, there's no modification to your document. It's just natively built in. You don't have to do anything.
So before you jump into the demos, one last thing I want to sort of cover with our viewers is sort of the progression you and your team have made since you first conceived of ATP and actually launched it. You can see that ATP was first launched in 2015. We've seen a lot of growth and a lot of focus in this area. So we've been investing a ton of time and a ton of effort. And you sort of see that in the feature set as well as the performance of the service itself.
That's right. We've made huge investments, not just in feature set, but also in our capacity and our ability to detonate. It's allowed us to open up all these additional scenarios. And plus, we've been growing, our user base has been growing so fast that we're now able to detonate over 1 billion things a month, which gives us all that intelligence that we feed back into Office 365, back into Windows.
Wow. No, that's really amazing stuff. And this is really something that we've done in 2 years, which is remarkable because now when we talk about our service, we are talking about our service in parallel with other organizations and other vendors that have been around for years. And from what we see, it seems like what we have done with ATP is pretty much at the very edge of the leading edge of the industry itself.
It is, but I'm most excited about where we're going over the next 2 years.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
Yeah. So with that, let's look at some of the actual ATP service, and we'll look at some of the policies and some of the reporting capabilities that we sort of touched upon in these slides.
That's great. Let's take a look. So now I'd like to show you actually how to configure ATP inside of the portal. So right now I'm just inside of the top-level Office 365 admin portal. And everything related to ATP, or really security in general, is contained inside of the Security and Compliance Center. Inside of Security and Compliance Center, we've got a bunch of reporting, and we also have policy configuration. So under the Threat Management tab, if you go down to Policy, these are going to be all the policies that relate to ATP. So you see here we've got the Safe Attachments policy and the Safe Links policy, those two core features that you told us about earlier. So I'm going to jump to safe links first, just to give you a sense of how easy it is to set this up. And really one of the most powerful things about it is that it is so quick to set up.
Yeah.
So you can see here, this is the Safe Links policy screen. And now there's actually two policies on here. Now there are policies that apply to your entire organization, and then there are the Safe Links policies themselves that apply to specific groups of recipients. So the policy level, let's go ahead and take a look at that. The policy level has tenant-specific block list as one thing, and that's a really powerful feature. So because we've wrapped all of the links in your organization, and soon, as you showed us on your roadmap, we're going to be wrapping internal links as well as links that are coming into your organization. So because all those links are wrapped, we give you as an admin the ability to influence the reputation on those links for your tenant immediately. So if you see something that we didn't, you can block it even after all those emails are delivered. So you can do that just by adding a URL up here. Now, there are also a bunch of settings down here for some of those features that we had talked about where we're using Office apps. So Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Visio. And I didn't mention, that's not just on the desktop. That's across all of our mobile apps as well.
Okay. Yeah. And
so you can choose whether or not to turn that on or off. And then you'll see, not only in this policy, but also in the other safe links, the recipient-specific safe links policy. So we actually track when a user clicks on a link. And we track, was it a good link or a bad link? And if we blocked it and you allow them to click through, did they choose to? So it's a really powerful tool called URL Trace that you can use to do remediation if necessary. If somebody clicked on something that later we figured out was malicious. And so if the privacy policies in your corporation say you can't do that, then you can check this box and not track links. And then this box is to allows you to toggle whether or not we provide them an option to ignore a recommendation and click through to the website, even if we say it's malicious.
So before we were showing a lot of the end user experience, and now we're actually showing you all the things that the admin has power over and sort of the things that the admin can do. And it seems like there's a lot of different custom features that are available to the admin.
That's right. But it's super easy to turn it on for your entire organization. So anytime you would try to do this same thing with some sort of third party, you're into weeks of configuration and you're messing with your mail routing. Because this is just built in as additional filtering to EOP, we're able to turn it on instantaneously. In fact, we've even had situations where we've gotten calls, people were in the middle of being attacked, and we turn on ATP and we're instantly able to block that attack for their entire organization. So this is what the recipient-specific policies look like. So it's as simple as, do I want to turn the feature on or do I want to turn the feature off? That's it. And then this says, hey, I want to use the linked content detonation feature that you told us about earlier. It's configurable. And then now you can see this is already showing up on this tenant, but it will be showing up on everybody's tenant here shortly. You can apply safe links to internal mail as well. It's a really powerful tool, particularly when combined with that tenant URL block list to stop lateral movement within your organization. And then once again, those same options to not track or to decide whether or not to let users click through. Now, there's also, you can provide a list of URLs that we don't wrap. So if there's something that's, your organization, you're very confident, you don't want to wrap for some reason, that's fine. You can add anything you want here with wildcards. Will not
So essentially, those are URLs that we aren't going to check because you've actually decided not to.
You choose not to wrap those in your mail. So that's it. Now you've set up safe links.
That is very simple. It's literally 2 steps.
Yep. And let me jump back to policy here. Now I'm going to jump over to the safe attachments policy. It's just as easy to set up. Once again, we've got this applies, globally to your tenant. This is saying, hey, do you want to use ATP for your SharePoint, OneDrive, and Teams? That great feature that you told us is just rolled out. So we've got a similar recipient level policy for safe attachments. These settings are a little bit different. We've got the action that you want us to take when we find something that's bad. So, you can just do a monitor mode, although we don't recommend that people bother because we hate to catch things and not have people block on them. But then you can block the mail outright. You can strip the attachments off the mail and replace it with a note saying that the attachments were malicious. Or you can use dynamic delivery. And so that's the feature that you mentioned, and I'll show you actually here in a minute.
Great.
Now, enabling redirect, if you want to get a copy of those malicious mails sent to your SOC team, You can do that here. You can also get access to those mails in our quarantine feature. We can take a look at that. But this is a great way to just get notified instantaneously whenever we catch anything. And then a checkbox here to say, hey, if for some reason there's an error, do you want us to treat that as malicious? So, on occasion, something will be poorly written malware, and it'll actually cause the entire environment to crash, or we'll not be able to get to the bottom of it. So this is an option for that. And I want to talk a little bit about how these are scoped. And I didn't show you this on the safe links policy, but it's scoped in the exact same way.
Okay.
So you can choose whether or not to scope by recipient, domain, or if somebody's a member of a group.
Okay.
Now, the member of a group is a great way to roll out this feature to your organization if you don't want to turn everybody on at once.
Got it.
Super easy to turn everybody on at once if that's what you want to do. And we've had, plenty of very large tenants who have done that, no problems at all. But if you want to do a slow rollout, you've already got distribution groups built up for different pieces of your organization. You can just apply this policy to each part of your organization. It's very easy to do a
So you're essentially getting a lot of granular control as to who gets the ATP
That's exactly
service,
right.
should you not want to give it to everyone in the organization.
That's right. You can have multiple policies
Sure.
and for different portions of your organization if you want to take different actions. So now I want to actually show you dynamic delivery.
Cool. Okay.
So I've got an email here that's just got a slide deck attached to it, some training that we did. I'm going to send it to a mailbox on this tenant that we've configured.
Okay.
So now I'm going to jump over to the mailbox. Now what's happening is that mail is getting sent. The attachments are being removed from the email. The notification message is being put on in its place.
Okay.
And then we're taking those attachments and we're putting it into the sandbox to make sure that it's safe. So that PowerPoint is being detonated right now, and you can see the mail just came through. And then so there's a message that says ATP scan in progress. And when I click on that, you can see I get a note saying, hey, we're making your attachment safe. It describes a little bit about what dynamic delivery is. But I can click on the attachment. And this is where it's actually going to go and pull that attachment out of the our servers where we're detonating them, and we'll show it to you inside of the PowerPoint online viewer.
That's awesome.
So see, I can interact, I can see all the content, but it's completely safe for me.
That's amazing. Wow, that's really cool.
So let me jump over now and show you a little bit of the new reporting that's going to be coming out here shortly. So, the feedback that we've gotten through those great customer conversations that we had is that, it would be great to be able to see what's going on in my tenant more in real time. And so we've done that. Now, within minutes of something getting delivered, if we catch it, we're going to be able to report to you in in the way, like not inside of message trays, but inside of a rich report, what's going on in your tenant.
Cool.
So once again, under that threat management tab, I'm going to jump to Explore. And this is actually showing me, you can see hour by hour. This is showing me things that are being detonated on my tenant. And so
that's pretty
this
cool.
is showing me ATP catch, showing me reputation. You'll be able to see all different kinds of malicious content in here. And then, if we can drill in specifically on emails here, and you get the full email list.
Wow.
And when you click on a recipient, you can get information about that recipient, including other mails that you've gotten, any alerts. You can see that I've had some malware on this guy. But then you can also see information about the message. So we'll give you a bunch of details about the message, about the attachments, any similar messages in the environment. So this is really enables you to know what's going on in your environment in really close to real time.
Will I be able to understand what's going on inside the detonation? Like, do I get any of that information?
Yep, we're adding that under that advanced analysis tab. And it's not live in this tenant right now, but we'll be able to show you the details of what happens inside of the detonation chamber. So a really great tool for your security researchers.
I can imagine a lot of customers, while they're really happy that we can show them what we've stopped, they may want to know why we thought this was malicious in the first place, because they may have folks on site who are interested in that information as well.
That's right.
Yeah. Cool.
That's right. So yeah, so as you can see, we've got this focus on providing a bunch more information to your admins, to your security researchers. We've made it super easy to turn on ATP, even in the middle of an attack. You can turn on your entire organization in just a couple of minutes. And then, those things like dynamic delivery to make sure that your productivity remains super high.
All right, thanks a lot, Jason, for your time today. Thank you for showing us this product demo. You guys have done some great work with ATP, and some of the improvements and some of the new features are really, really powerful. Seeing that reporting, the UI, all amazing stuff, dynamic delivery, document preview, and just the sheer simplicity of the product itself. So thank you very much, and keep up the great work.
Thank you, Debraj.